The rain-slicked streets of Seattle gleamed under the sodium lamps like veins pulsing with forbidden secrets, and that's when I saw him. Leaning against the graffiti-covered wall of the old warehouse, his leather jacket soaked through, eyes hollow as the storm clouds overhead. "You shouldn't have come, Ethan," he said, voice cracking like thunder. But his hand trembled as it reached for mine, pulling me into the shadows where no one could hear my heart shatter. In that instant, with sirens wailing in the distance and the scent of wet asphalt thick in the air, I knew we'd crossed a line that his family's money and threats could never uncross. I was 22, fresh out of community college with a beat-up Ford pickup and dreams bigger than the Cascade Mountains that loomed over the city. Seattle was my escape from the dust-choked farms of eastern Washington, where I'd grown up fixing tractors and dodging my dad's Bible-thumping lectures on what made a man whole. I'd always known I was different. Stolen glances at the high school quarterback during gym class, the way my pulse raced when the wind carried the scent of pine and sweat from the logging crews. But I buried it deep, like so many kids in small-town America do, until the day I landed that barista gig at the Pike Place Market coffee shop. That's where Noah walked in, all sharp jawline and quiet intensity, like he'd stepped out of one of those indie films they play at the local art house. He ordered a black coffee, no frills, and paid with a crisp 20 that smelled faintly of old money. Crisp bills folded just so, the kind you don't see in tip jars. His eyes, stormy gray like Puget Sound on a bad day, flicked up to meet mine, and for a split second, the world narrowed to that chipped ceramic mug between us. "Rough night?" I asked, because his tie was loosened like he'd just escaped a boardroom brawl, and he looked about as out of place as a vegan at a crab boil. "You have no idea," he muttered, a ghost of a smile tugging at his lips. We talked for 10 minutes, about the relentless drizzle that turns everything mossy green, the fairies cutting through the fog like silver ghosts. By the time he left, he'd scribbled his number on a napkin, and I was already replaying the low timbre of his laugh in my head. That was 6 months ago. Now, here we were, huddled in the doorway of an abandoned fish cannery on the waterfront, the kind of place where history reeks of salt and regret. Noah's family, the Harringtons, owned half the tech startups in the Emerald City, their name etched on plaques at the Space Needle and whispered in the halls of power from Olympia to DC. Old money mixed with new ambition, the sort that builds empires on the backs of quiet deals and quieter scandals. And me? I was the nobody from the wrong side of the mountains, the barista with calluses from baling hay and a mom who'd remarried some wannabe rancher after Dad split. "Why here?" I whispered, my back pressed against the cold brick, his body shielding mine from the downpour. The rain drummed on the metal roof above like impatient fingers, urging us to move, to run. "Because they know every hotel, every coffee shop," he said, his breath warm against my neck. "Dad's got PIs on speed dial, but this place, it's off the grid, like us." The word hung there, fragile as a soap bubble. We'd stolen moments in the hidden corners of the city, kisses in the shadow of the Great Wheel at sunset, late-night drives up to Hurricane Ridge where the stars felt close enough to touch. Noah would talk about his life like it was a cage. The expectations, the grooming for the family firm, the way his parents paraded him at galas like a prize steer at the state fair. "They want me to marry Claire Whitaker," he'd say, bitterness lacing his words. "Daughter of the senator. Perfect match for the Harrington legacy." And I'd laugh, because what else could I do? Sounds like a bad country song. Next it'll be a shotgun wedding and a pickup truck. But it wasn't funny, not really. His family had caught wind of us weeks ago. A careless text on his phone, a photo from a mutual friend at that queer poetry slam downtown. The fallout was swift. Threats of disinheritance, veiled warnings about ruining the family name. And now this me, smuggling him out of his own penthouse like some bootlegger in a prohibition flick. We slipped out the back, weaving through alleys that smelled of garbage and fried halibut from the wharf. My truck was parked a block away, camouflaged under a tarp that looked like it belonged to a homeless camp. Noah's hand in mine felt like an anchor, steadying me against the waves of fear crashing in my chest. What if they found us? What if this was the end before we'd even begun? The engine coughed to life, and we peeled out toward I-5 South, headlights cutting through the veil of rain like desperate searchlights. "Where to?" he asked, his fingers tracing patterns on my thigh. Innocent, reassuring, the kind of touch that said I'm here, and that's enough. Portland, maybe, or further. I've got a cousin in Eugene who owes me a favor. Lies, half of them. My cousin was a drunk who hadn't spoken to me since high school, but desperation breeds geography. Noah leaned back, eyes closing as the city lights blurred into streaks. I love you, Ethan. You know that, right? This isn't some phase. It's the first real thing I've ever felt. My throat tightened. Love. The word was a grenade in a world that treated it like contraband. I know, I managed. Me too. We drove through the night, the radio humming old Springsteen tracks about thunder roads and glory days, the kind of music that makes you believe in second chances. By dawn, we'd crossed into Oregon, the pines thickening like silent sentinels. We holed up in a no-tell-motel off the highway, the kind with vibrating beds and walls thin as tissue paper. It was there, tangled in scratchy sheets that smelled of bleach and regret, that Noah told me the full story. His family wasn't just rich. They were connected. Dad, Richard Harrington, had clawed his way from a trailer park in Tacoma to CEO of Harrington Dynamics, a cybersecurity giant that guarded everything from Wall Street trades to Pentagon secrets. Mom was the socialite, all pearls and passive aggression, who'd once been a debutante in Boston before trading East Coast winters for Seattle's endless gray. Noah was their golden boy, Harvard grad, heir apparent, until he came out to them last year. It was Christmas, he said, staring at the peeling wallpaper. Turkey and tension. I thought, maybe if I just said it like ripping off a Band-Aid. Dad's face went white as the snow outside. He didn't yell, just said, "We'll fix this. Therapy. Whatever it takes." Therapy turned into conversion camps disguised as leadership retreats. Weekends in the Cascades where mentors quoted Leviticus and pushed him to pray the gay away. Noah endured it for months, until he couldn't anymore. That's when he found me. A safe harbor in the storm. But now, with us on the run, the noose was tightening. My phone buzzed relentlessly. Unknown numbers, voicemails from a blocked caller that I deleted without listening. Noah's had been smashed under my boot heel back in Seattle. A mercy kill to cut the tracking. We spent 2 days in that motel, mapping out a life on the back of a greasy diner napkin. Portland for a fresh start. Me slinging lattes at some hipster cafe. Him freelancing code under a fake name. We can make it work, he'd say, his optimism a balm on my frayed nerves. And God, those moments. Lazy mornings with takeout pancakes, evenings walking the Willamette River trails hand in hand under the cover of dusk, felt like stolen paradise. Noah had this way of seeing the world, poetic and fierce, quoting Whitman from memory while we watched freighters glide by. I sing the body electric, he'd murmur, his lips brushing my ear, and I'd feel alive in a way that small-town shame had never allowed. But paradise has a way of crumbling. On the third night, as thunder rattled the windows like an angry god, there was a knock at the door. Not the casual rap of a maid, but deliberate, insistent. Noah froze, his fork halfway to his mouth from a half-eaten burger. "Don't answer," he hissed. I crept to the peephole, heart hammering. 2 men in dark suits, faces like carved granite, flanked by a third in a rumpled trench coat. Private muscle, the kind that doesn't ask questions. "Ethan Caldwell? Open up. We just want to talk." Noah's eyes widened in terror. How did they? I didn't wait for the answer. Grabbing our duffels, I yanked him toward the fire escape, the metal groaning under our weight as we scrambled down into the alley below. Gunshots? No, just the slam of a battering ram splintering wood. We ran, lungs burning, until we hit a bus station on the edge of town. Greyhound to anywhere, San Francisco, maybe, where the rainbow flags fly higher than the fog. As the bus lurched forward, Noah slumped against my shoulder, trembling. They're never gonna stop, are they? I wrapped my arm around him, staring out at the blurring taillights. They might, but we will. Little did I know the real storm was just brewing. The bus rattled south along the coastal highway, Highway 101 twisting like a serpent through redwood groves that clawed at the sky, ancient and indifferent to our plight. Noah slept fitfully beside me, his head on my lap, dark curls damp with sweat from the nightmare he jerked awake from twice already, muttering about locked doors and his father's cold stare. I stroked his hair, the motion automatic, a ritual of reassurance in this greyhound purgatory where strangers snored and the air smelled of stale chips and desperation. San Francisco was our beacon now, the city of free spirits and fog-shrouded secrets, where maybe we could vanish into the Castro's colorful chaos. We arrived at dawn, the Golden Gate shrouded in mist like a half-remembered dream. The bus depot spat us out onto Mission Street, amid the hum of Ticarius firing up and street artists chalking murals of Aztec gods on the sidewalks. Noah's eyes lit up for the first time in days. Real light, not the haunted flicker I'd grown used to. "Look at this place," he breathed, spinning slowly to take it in. "It's alive. Not like Seattle's polite suffocation." We crashed in a hostel off Haight Street, the kind of crash pad where tie-dye banners hang from the rafters and the shared kitchen reeks of patchouli and weed. Bunk beds for $20 a night, and for the first time we felt the edges of normalcy. I scored a job at a bookstore in the Mission, shelving Kerouac and Baldwin, ringing up tourists with their dog-eared guides to the beats. Noah, ever the tech wizard, hacked together a freelance gig debugging apps for indie developers, using a burner laptop we'd bought with cash from an ATM run that left us paranoid about cameras. Those weeks blurred into a golden haze. Mornings started with coffee from the corner roaster, strong and bitter like the life we'd left behind. Afternoons, we'd wander the labyrinth of alleys, stealing kisses behind murals of Che Guevara and Frida Kahlo, the air thick with the sizzle of carnitas and the strum of buskers playing Dylan covers. Evenings belonged to us. Picnics in Golden Gate Park, where hippies still preached free love and the bison grazed like relics from another era. Noah opened up more, peeling back layers like an onion that made my eyes water. He told me about his little sister, Lila, just 12 and already wise beyond her years, the one who'd slipped him notes during family dinners. "You're brave, Noah. Don't let them win." Or the time he'd come out to his college roommate, only to have the guy ghost him for a month before showing up with beer and an apology. "America's full of these half-reformed bigots," Noah said one night, as we lay on a blanket under the planetarium's dome, stars projected overhead like promises. "But it's also got room for us if we fight for it." I believed him. God, how I believed him. For the first time, I felt like I belonged. Not as the farm boy's queer secret, but as half of something whole. We even started talking future. A tiny apartment in No Valley, maybe adopt a mutt from the shelter, build a life brick by rainbow brick. But shadows have a way of creeping in even under California sun. It started with a letter, slipped under our hostel door like a venomous snake. No stamp, just Noah's name in crisp, typed font. I found it while he was out grabbing bagels, the envelope heavy in my hand, sealed with the Harrington crest, a stylized eagle clutching a circuit board. Inside a single sheet, "Come home, son. We've found your weakness. End this charade or he pays the price." No signature, but the threat hummed like a live wire. Noah crumpled it when I showed him, face paling to the color of the fog rolling in off the bay. "They mean you. The job, your mom back home. They'll dig until they hit dirt. We move again," I said, forcing steel into my voice. "LA. Or Vegas. Anywhere." But doubt had wormed in a crack in our foundation. That night as we made love. Not the frantic passion of fugitives, but slow, tender, like mapping each other's scars with lips and whispers. There was a hesitation in his touch, a shadow in his eyes. The next morning he was gone. No note, just the bunk empty and his duffel missing. Panic clawed my throat as I tore through the hostel. Then the streets, calling his burner number until it went straight to voicemail. "Noah? Baby, where are you?" The city, once a lover's playground, turned mocking. Buses hissing past, vendors hawking cheap souvenirs that mocked our fragility. Hours blurred into a fever dream. I pounded pavement from the Embarcadero to the Haight, flashing his photo to baristas and booksellers, my voice raw. "Have you seen this guy? Gray eyes, killer smile." By dusk, exhaustion pinned me to a bench in Dolores Park, where drag queens lounged like sun-worshipping deities, and the air buzzed with laughter that felt like salt in a wound. Then my phone, the old one I'd kept off-grid, vibrated. Unknown number. Ethan. His voice small and broken. I'm sorry. I had to. Where are you? I demanded, springing up, heart jackhammering. Back in Seattle. They found Lila. Said they'd send her to one of those camps if I didn't come home. I can't let them break her too. Betrayal hit like a gut punch, stealing my breath. You left? Without a word? After everything? It wasn't like that. Please understand. No, Noah. I get it. Family first. Always has been. The words tasted like ash, but I hurled them anyway, because the pain demanded an outlet. Silence stretched. Then, I love you. This isn't goodbye. But it felt like it. I hung up, the park spinning around me, the city's pulse mocking my isolation. That night, I drank myself stupid in a dive bar off 16th Street, tequila burning a path to numbness, toasting to fools who thought love could outrun legacy. Days turned to weeks. I stuck around SF, too numb to run, working doubles at the bookstore until my hands blistered from stacking tomes of unrequited longing. Letters came, mailed to a P.O. box I'd set up in a fit of spite, pleading poetic missives in Noah's looping script. Every street here echoes you. The Space Needle's a spike in my heart. I burned them in the hostel sink, watching flames dance like our stolen nights. But America has a funny way of looping back on itself. One rainy Tuesday, as I shelved a new shipment of queer memoirs, Fun Home, Redefining Realness, the bell above the door tinkled. I looked up, and there he was. Noah, thinner, eyes shadowed, but alive with that same electric pull. You came back, I said, voice flat as the counter between us. I never left, he replied, stepping closer. Not in here. He tapped his chest, then mine. They think they've won. Therapy sessions, blind dates with Claire. But every lie I tell them tastes like goodbye. The store emptied, customers drifting like smoke, leaving us in the hush of leather-bound histories. Why now? I asked, arms crossed like armor. Because Lila slipped me a burner. Said, fix it, big brother. For both of you. And because I can't breathe without you, Ethan. Seattle's a cage, but you're the key. We talked until closing, words tumbling like confessions in a dimly lit confessional. His family's grip had loosened just a fraction. Dad's health scare? A mild heart attack that forced a reevaluation? Or so Mom claimed in her passive-aggressive voicemails. But the real fracture? Noah's refusal to play the part anymore. I told them I'm done. No marriage, no legacy. If they cut me off, fine. I'll code for nonprofits. Live in a van by the river if I have to. It was reckless, romantic folly, the kind that built this country, from gold rush dreamers to civil rights marchers. We left together that night, my hand in his, the city lights winking approval as we headed north, not running, but reclaiming. But fate, that cruel American pastime, had one more twist waiting. The drive back to Seattle was a gauntlet of ghosts, Highway 5 unspooling like a film reel of our past mistakes. Noah drove this time, my old Ford humming under his careful hands, while I navigated with a crumpled map dotted in highlighter, back roads to avoid toll cams and prying eyes. We stopped in Olympia for gas and greasy diner fries, the state capitol's dome gleaming in the distance like a crown on a pauper. Remember our first road trip? He asked, ketchup smeared on his thumb like war paint. That time we got lost chasing a ferry to Bainbridge? I nodded, the memory a warm ache. You sang off-key to Fleetwood Mac the whole way. Go your own way on repeat. He laughed, a sound like sunlight breaking clouds, and for a moment, the weight lifted. But as we crested the hills into the Puget Sound lowlands, reality reasserted itself. Billboards for Harrington Dynamics loomed, sleek ads promising secure tomorrows. And my stomach nodded. We'd agreed no rash moves. Scout the lay of the land, find a cheap rental in Capitol Hill, the queer heart of the city where rainbow crosswalks dared you to be bold. Our new digs were a third-floor walk-up above a tattoo parlor, walls paper-thin and views of brick firewalls. But it was ours, paid with my savings and Noah's first freelance check. We christened it with thrift store finds. A sagging couch from Craigslist, posters of Yosemite, and the Grand Canyon thumbtacked like talismans of escape. Nights were for dreaming aloud. Noah sketching app prototypes on napkins. Me jotting story ideas inspired by the barflies at my new gig. A dive called the Rusty Anchor where fishermen swap tails taller than the masts. Word spread slowly in our bubble. A coming-out party at a friend's loft in Fremont. Craft IPAs and a playlist heavy on Hosier, where Noah introduced me as the guy who saved my ass, literally. Laughter rippled, but I caught the undercurrent. Pity glances, whispers about the Harrington prodigal. His sister Lila showed up unannounced one Saturday, all braces and bravado, sneaking out from a family brunch with a backpack of contraband comics. "Dad's on blood thinners now," she confided over pizza, her eyes sharp as her brother's. "Makes him mellow. But Mom? She's plotting like it's the Cold War." Lila became our secret weapon, texts in code, diversions at family dinners. Through her, we learned the fractures. Richard Harrington's empire wobbling under SEC scrutiny, whispers of insider trading that could topple the throne. "They're desperate to keep up appearances," Noah said, pacing our shoebox living room. "Claire's wedding's in 6 months. They want me as best man, the dutiful son." Refusal came swift, a phone call that echoed through our walls like a gunshot. "I'm not your prop, Dad." Noah's voice steady, mine clenched in the kitchenette. Silence on the line, then the click. Days later, the hammer fell. Frozen accounts, a cease and desist on his freelance work, courtesy of family lawyers who'd once penned his trust fund. We scraped by, my tips, odd jobs for Noah under the table, but the strain showed. Arguments flared like summer brush fires. Me accusing him of nostalgia for the silver spoon. Him snapping that I'd never understand the bone-deep pull of blood. "It's not about the money," he'd yell, then crumple, apologies whispered into my collarbone. "It's you. Always you." Sex was our truce, gentle, reaffirming, bodies speaking what words couldn't. But doubt festered, a slow poison. One night, after a shift that left me smelling of spilled stout and regret, I found him on the fire escape, staring at the city lights with a scotch in hand. Pilfered from a Harrington cellar, no doubt. "What if we bolt for good?" I asked, sliding beside him, the metal groaning under our weight. "Yosemite. Live off the grid, ranger gigs and stargazing." He turned, eyes glistening. "And what about Lila? Or the life we could build here, fighting instead of fleeing?" The question hung, unanswered, as thunder rumbled from the Olympics. Climax crashed in like a Pacific swell, unannounced and unforgiving. It was a crisp October Friday, leaves turning the U District gold as I locked up the anchor. My phone buzzed, Lila's number. "Ethan, get to the house. Now, it's bad." The Harrington estate sprawled on Lake Washington like a fortress of glass and steel, docks lined with yachts that screamed excess. Security waved me through, bribed or broken, I didn't care. Past manicured lawns where sprinklers whispered like conspirators. Lila met me at the back door, face streaked with tears. "Noah's in the study. Dad, he knows you're coming." Heart in my throat, I pushed inside. The air was thick with cigar smoke and old grievances. Noah stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, back rigid, while Richard Harrington loomed behind his desk like a deposed king. Thinner now, but no less formidable, flanked by 2 suits who smelled of cologne and coercion. "You?" Richard spat, eyes narrowing to slits. "The barfly poison." Noah whirled. "Dad, enough." But the old man wasn't done. He slid a folder across the mahogany, photos spilling out. Me in high school, awkward and outed by a leaked journal. My mom in her waitress uniform, dated and desperate. Even a grainy shot of Dad, long gone, in a county jail mugshot for bar fights and bad checks. "Leverage," Richard said flatly. "Walk away, kid, or I bury your family in scandals that'll make headlines from here to Spokane." The room tilted. Betrayal not from Noah, but from the machine that birthed him, this cold calculus of control. Noah's face crumpled, stepping between us. "No, Ethan, don't." I snatched the photos, ripping them to confetti that fluttered like dying butterflies. You think paper tigers scare me? I've got nothing to lose but him. Richard's laugh was a bark, devoid of mirth. Then lose it all. Noah's future, Harvard, the board seat, gone. And that sister of his? Boarding school in Switzerland. Far from your influence. Lila gasped from the doorway, but it was Noah who broke. He lunged at his father, fists clenched, a raw stop tearing from his throat. Chaos erupted, suits grabbing arms, Richard staggering back into bookshelves that rained leather tomes like judgment. I pulled Noah free, dragging him toward the exit as alarms wailed, the lakeside estate fracturing under the weight of unspoken wars. We tumbled into the night, rain-slick gravel crunching under tires as I floored it down the drive. Sirens keened in pursuit, but we lost them in the Warren of Bellevue suburbs. Headlights off until we hit I-90 East. You're free, I panted, glancing at him in the rear view, wild-eyed, knuckles bruised. Free, he laughed, bitter and broken. I just assaulted my father. For you. For us. The road stretched into blackness, bridges arching over dark waters like veins to nowhere. Betrayal's sting lingered. Not his, but the system's. The American dream twisted into a noose for anyone who dared color outside the lines. Dawn found us in the Cascades, a pullout overlooking valleys shrouded in mist. Noah climbed from the truck, boots crunching pine needles, and I followed, the air crisp with promise and peril. What now? He asked, voice small against the wind. I took his hand, calloused palm to smooth. We fight. Lawyers, press, whatever it takes. Lila's tough. She'll testify if it comes to that. And your dad? Empires fall, Noah. Look at history. He searched my face, then pulled me close, forehead to forehead. Every road, he murmured, echoing the mantra we'd whispered in motels and meadows. Back to each other. But as the sun crested, gilding the peaks in gold, a call came. Lila, frantic. Mom's pressing charges. Assault. And something worse. They found emails. Noah, you confided in Claire. The world tilted again. Claire, the fiancé prop, had been the confidant, the one he'd vented to in weak moments. Betrayal, this time sharp and personal. Her forwarding chains to Richard, trading loyalty for a wedding veil. Noah's knees buckled, and I caught him, holding tight as sobs racked his frame. The climax we dodged had landed. A by-kitch of blood ties and broken trusts. The Cascades held us captive that day. A verdant prison of ferns and firs where time stretched like taffy, sweet and suffocating. We hiked a trail to a glacial tarn, the water mirror still, reflecting skies heavy with unshed rain. Noah skipped stones across the surface. Plunk, plunk. Each one a skipped heartbeat, a what-if flung into the void. Claire, he said finally, sinking onto a boulder mossy as a forgotten promise. I thought she was an ally. Late nights, post-gala drinks. She said she was trapped in the family script too. Turns out she was just auditioning for the role. I sat beside him, shoulder to shoulder, the chill seeping through my flannel. People sell out when the spotlight hits. Doesn't make it hurt less, but it doesn't define us. He turned, eyes red-rimmed but fierce. What does, then? If not family, not friends. Us, I said simply. This. I gestured to the wilderness around us. The raw, unpolished beauty of America at its wildest, where pioneers once carved paths through impossibility. We build from here. No more running. Back in the truck, we plotted like generals in a foxhole. First, the charges. Lila confirmed the assault claim was bluster. Richard's ego bruised more than his body. No hospital run, just a strategic 911 call for the record. Claire's emails? A digital trail of duplicity, forwarded confessions that painted Noah as the unstable one, the phase his family needed to exorcise. But in the fine print, cracks. Her own insecurities, pleas for Noah to snap out of it, laced with desperation for approval. We leak it, Noah decided, voice hardening as we descended the pass toward Yakima's apple orchards. Anonymously, to the PI who covers Harrington's corner of the world. I raised an eyebrow. Blackmail with blackmail? That's your play. Not blackmail. Truth. His grin was wolfish, a glimpse of the rebel beneath the air. America loves a redemption arc. Dad's the villain, Claire the schemer. We're the lovers who wouldn't quit. We holed up in a roadside motel that night, the neon vacancy sign buzzing like a hive of vindication. Noah fired up the laptop, VPN layered thick as onion skin, and we drafted the drop. Redacted emails, timestamps glaring, narrative spun like a journalist's yarn. Tech Titan's son caught in homophobic web. By midnight, it was sent to 3 reporters. One from The Stranger, Seattle's alt-weekly voice of the marginalized. Another from a national queer outlet. The third, a dogged investigative type at the Seattle Times who'd once exposed a conversion camp ring. Sleep came fitful, tangled limbs and whispered contingencies. If it backfires? I murmured into his hair, the room lit by the glow of a lava lamp we'd scavenged from the office. Then we go underground. Portland again or Austin? Keep Austin weird, right? He kissed my temple, soft as absolution. But I have faith in you, Ethan. In us. Morning brought the deluge. My phone, new burner, Lila's lifeline, exploded with alerts. Headlines cascaded. Harrington airs family drama. Emails reveal anti-gay pressure campaign. The Stranger led with flair. From closet to boardroom, Noah Harrington fights back. While the Times played it straighter, quotes from anonymous sources. Lila, bless her, painting Richard as a tyrant undone by his own hubris. Claire's name trended. Her Senator Daddy's office issuing a stiff denial that only fueled the fire. Twitter, X, whatever they called it now. Ignited with Noah strong, rainbow emojis marching like digital picketers. Noah's phone, resurrected from hiding, rang non-stop. Reporters, allies from Harvard Queer Alliance, even a producer sniffing an LGBTQ+ docuseries. But the real call came from Richard, voice gravelly, stripped of bluster. Come home. We talk. No suits. We did, pulling up to the estate under a sky scrubbed clean by storm. The docks were empty, yachts bobbing like humble giants. Richard waited in the study, alone. No muscle, just a decanter of scotch and eyes shadowed by defeat. Mom hovered in the doorway, pearls clutched like rosary beads. Lila peeking from the hall with defiant glee. Sit, he grunted, gesturing to wingbacks that creaked like old bones. Noah took mine's arm, a united front. You've made your point. Papers are enthusiastic. Noah's chin lifted. It wasn't a point, Dad. It was survival. Richard poured 3 fingers, sliding glasses our way, mine untouched. I built this from nothing. Thought I knew control. Turns out, it's an illusion. Pause heavy as lead. The SEC's circling. Your leak. Cracked something open. But maybe that's the mercy. Mom stepped forward, voice tremulous. We were scared, Noah. For the name, for you. But seeing it splashed. It woke us. Lila piped up. Told you so. The negotiation unfolded like a tense poker hand. Folds of pride, bluffs of affection. No disinheritance, but strings. Therapy, real this time. Family sessions with a queer-affirming shrink. Claire's wedding? Off, her family retreating to DC scandals of their own. And us? Acknowledged, if uneasily, no fanfare, but a quiet tolerance, the American way of progress. 2 steps forward, 1 grudging glance back. We left with handshakes. Richard's grip firm, almost paternal, and a check Noah tore up on the drive home. Not buying silence, he said. Earning it. Months wove into a new tapestry. Noah joined a startup in the Hill, coding ethical AI for mental health apps. Ironic redemption, turning family tech against its shadows. I wrote, my stories landing in lit mags, vignettes of Rust Belt queers and coastal dreamers. Lila crashed often, her braces gone, spirit unbroken, plotting college escapes to SF art schools. Winter solstice brought the real thaw. A Harrington holiday, subdued but sincere. Richard carved turkey with unsteady hands. Mom's eyes misty over eggnog toasts. No sermons, just stories. Dad's Tacoma youth, Mom's Boston blizzards. Noah and I sat side by side, fingers brushing under the table. a silent vow. As snow dusted the lake, we slipped out to the dock, breaths fogging in the chill. Every road, Noah whispered, pulling me close. The city lights a constellation of second chances. Back to each other, I echoed, the words a bridge over chasms crossed. America, for all its fractures. Red states and blue cities, legacies of pain and pulses of hope, teaches resilience. We weren't fixed, not perfectly. Scars linger, doubts whisper. But in the quiet humanism of flawed forgiveness, of families reforged in fire, we found our way. Not a fairy tale, but a real one. Two men, hands clasped, walking forward into the vast, unforgiving, beautiful unknown. And in that, grace enough,